All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first stream of the week, and it's already Thursday. My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk to you about God, talk to you about Jesus, talk to you about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes I'll get it right, many times I'll get it wrong, but either way, you're going to get an honest take from me whenever I'm on here streaming, which is often as I can. So, um, with that said, if you are new to Christianity, if you are seeking it out, just maybe curious, maybe there's a voice in the back of your mind wondering if there's more to life than just your existence here on earth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. You're coming in on an interesting time because I have my hands full right now. Um, Glad to have you here. Hopefully, hopefully I can give you some sort of um, good, some sort of worthwhile impressions on what Christianity is to the layperson, to you as it is, not from somebody with a professional background, not somebody who has made a career out of preaching or discipling or any of this. I'm just a guy you could run into if you walked into a church, guy you might sit next to in a pew if you decided to walk in and give it a try. But I'm here to give you my thoughts and impressions on what it's like to be a Christian and what to expect. Because guess what? We're not any different from anybody else, except for the fact that we have faith in God and a certain set of beliefs, and we hold to Scripture as our guiding truth to to follow in the path that He has set before us. So please tune in and ask any questions that you can, or give us any comments that you can. They're all welcome. If you're already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome here as well. This is a very casual, very relaxed stream. As you can tell, this is not a place to where we um, put up a front or argue about different things. This is really just this is a place to study and have fellowship and share different ideas. We have a great group of folks in the chat who come in and night out, who I've been absolutely neglectful of, but who still choose to tune in. Glad to see that. But we would love for you to join the chat, whether you are already a Christian or you are just curious. We would love to get your takes. Where do you think I'm right? Where do you think I'm wrong? What different? Um, oh yeah, what different? What different experiences and impressions are you having on whatever we're discussing? Um, that you can have input in. It's all welcome here. And not only am I here to help respond to it, but we also have knowledgeable and friendly people in the chat who are also, great to interact with. So, with that said, let's get this show on the road. I have with me a very special guest. It is the newest addition to our family. It is my daughter, and she is trying to sleep, which is why I'm sitting back a little bit. why? Why? And we'll see. We'll see how long she's able to hold in here. I am the only parent here tonight. Everybody else is out hanging out and having a good time, and I am inside having a good time. So um, she is going to join me. I've been wanting to bring her on stream for a while. I don't normally bring my kids on. It's a rule of mine that I don't by nature, but that's more because um, older kids are much more recognizable, and they're out there in the space. Um, I don't feel comfortable with that. She is new enough. She is new enough that I don't think it's all that bothersome. Plus, um, guys, I missed a bunch of streams because we were bringing her into this world. So I figured she should be on here as a as part of the community. So welcome to this little girl. She is she is like all my other two kids, a miracle and gift from God who I cherish greatly, and deeply thankful for my wife for uh, making and raising each one of my kids. And probably this will almost certainly be our last go round with kids with her, but we're enjoying every day that we get to do it. So say hello, and let's say hello to the chat. Alias is here. Yex is here. Matt Felty is here, and there I'm sure are folks lurking in the background watching. We're gonna tie up tonight the um, last two chapters in Chronicle, or the last two chapters in Second Chronicles, which is. Oh, let me back out of some things here that I've left up. System settings. Trying to figure out which speakers I'm going to use for different things. And now, okay, so everybody's here tonight. Even the cat. Even the cat decided to come in. Let's see. We're going to finalize our chapters through the kingdom of Israel and Judah. And after this, we will be moving into Ezra and Nehemiah. And we'll see where we go from there. What are we going to read from tonight? What's our suggestions for tonight? What version are we going to read from tonight? Let's see. Last time we were in Amplified Bible, which I'm kind of a fan of Amplified Bible now that I've read it. It's I like it. I like your style, Amplified Bible. The Vulgate? Is that even a thing? Is this some nerd thing, Nernath? You have the Tree of Life version. Wycliffe Bible? That sounds sus. The scrolls. Let's see. We got. Oh, okay. Well, it's not online. It's not on this very free, very accessible, useful version of of Bible Gateway. Um, let's see. There was another one you guys wanted me to read from. We were in between. Oh, okay. John Wycliffe was one of the first to translate the Bible into English when it was illegal. Okay, because I was thinking the Fugees. RSV. RSV. We'll do that. Revised Standard Version. There we go. There we go. All right. So before we get into that, um, just a little bit of update. So Monday had softball, which was a bit crazy. Um, don't ask me how she's comfortable right now, but she is, I guess. Monday was softball, and we had a thunderstorm end the second game. We were right in the middle of it, but it was a good time. Had a good time. We were playing a church I'm very familiar with. Their preacher, who was also playing, is a guest I want to get on here soon. I reached out to Conversations with a Calvinist. He is a pretty funny guy on Twitter. He is green lighted coming onto my show at some point. We just need to iron out a date. We are going to get the other Paul coming on here as well. He's going to talk about the Reformed This cat. Going to get with the Reformed doctrine. Just talk about it and everything because I've got questions. I've always been very, very critical of Calvinism and Reformed thought, though I have a lot of friends who I don't doubt their faith in the least, who are Reformed. I don't. This cat is going to drive me insane. He's going to get on the wrong side that I have to reach over. Um, the there are a lot of times they're very knowledgeable and very very positive in their thinking as far as they're very positive that they're right. But again, very deeply devout folks. And if you're not following Conversations with the Calvinist on Twitter, he's very funny. He's very much kind of a Calvinist version of Lutheran satire. Doesn't mind poking fun at his own denomination. And he's on YouTube. I don't think he's been doing this all that long, but he does seem to be a very popular and rising character, personality in social media, and deservedly so, because I think he seems to have a very good attitude when it comes to addressing matters of faith. So bringing him on, and kind of getting him to introduce it and asking some questions. I think he'll be a great person to bring on, him and the other Paul. And at some point, have him back on. You had a Calvinist phase. I haven't. I have very much always been a free will person. I cannot get behind the idea of predestination, but I think that a lot of times it ends up being meta, and I think that we end up Calvinists included, non-Calvinists and Calvinists in this argument get so wrapped up in the ideas behind it that we lose focus on what. Will you get out? Will you lose focus on what's really important and what really matters about Scripture, and that's how we are to behave, and how we are to act and treat each other, and how we are to love God. Um, so there we go with that. Tuesday was a birthday. Well, I'm sorry, not a birthday. A Father's Day present from my wife. We took the kids up to Baltimore to go see the Baltimore Orioles play the Cincinnati Reds. It was a very cool experience for me. I've only been able to see the Reds play a handful of times, and Camden Yards in Baltimore is probably the only good-looking, beautiful thing in maybe the Inner Harbor, but not really. Camden Yards is a beautiful ballpark, and it's a great atmosphere to go to. So it's the only reason I would actually take my kids willingly into the city of Baltimore. But it was a great experience. We had great seats. It rained. We happened to be sitting not far behind home plate, but far enough back that we were under the second deck. And so when it started raining, it didn't rain on us. A few feet away from us was the father of the starting pitcher for the Reds. He was making his 5th start of his young career. And he is from a town just about 30 minutes from where I live. Very small town, and it's great to see a local guy, a local kid, be successful for a team you root for. And I actually ran into his father at one point and talked to him a little bit. And it was, it's just great to see a dad who's proud of his son achieving something that he's worked hard for, that seems to have a good attitude about. Hopefully that good attitude continues, and hopefully that develops into a great career. But it's always just cool seeing the human element behind sports, when it's when guys are young and they're not too totally full of themselves. My kids did not get a chance to. They waited and they got to get really close to some of the ball players, but weren't able to get any autographs. But we'll try again, and hopefully they will. But it's an exciting time to be a Reds fan, and it's first time in a long time. Uh, and my son especially is excited about it. My father-in-law is actually an Orioles fan, so he came with us, and the Reds won, and they took the series. So bragging rights all around. But and then yesterday something came up very much at the last minute. I'm not going to get into it, but I wasn't able to stream, so I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, guys, I haven't been able to get into it. I said, tell the Calvinists a date you want and tell them to disprove that it was predestined. Hashtag own the schedule. He'll probably play right along with that. So, all right, let's get into the show proper. We got the good we got a good collection of the regulars here. My favorite people. We need to find out what happened to some of our other buddies who haven't been here in a while. It's starting to scare me a little bit that we haven't seen him in a while. I haven't seen MR in a while. I think we've seen Porcupine. Nico, I haven't seen in a while. We need to check up on Nico, find out where he's at. Hopefully he's doing well. All right. So tonight we closed the book, so to speak. Tonight we closed the book on Kings and Chronicles, and it has been quite a ride. We have gone over several generations, from King David, really starting in 1st and 2nd Samuel, from King Saul all the way up here to Josiah. We have seen the people of Israel beg for a king, basically demand a king almost, get warned of that, demand it anyway. They get a king. He is very much a man of the world. And like I say, unfortunately, probably the type of king that most of us would end up becoming. Your average guy probably ends up like Saul. As much Saul starts off with his heart in the right place, but ends up becoming more in love with the trappings and his power than he does making sure that doing what God has instructed and expects out of him. He's followed by King David, maybe one of the most he's definitely a top 5 biblical guy, right? You got to think of folks who are really up on the list: Abraham, Moses, David, Mary, Paul. Maybe Peter's probably in there somewhere. This is obviously not including Jesus. We're talking about just guys who are just guys, not who are guys who are also God. Or people who are just people, not people who are also God, because I forgot Mary's in there too. So The what was I going to say? Anyway, we get David, man after, as described, man after God's own heart, man who wears his faith openly, lovingly on his sleeves, his his faith in God, carries it in the battle, um, carries it in the way he conducts himself, except for one temptation. That's all it takes sometimes. One big temptation, and then another moment of, let's call it ego, where the ego took over. Out of there comes Solomon, a man with earnest desire to do what was best and what God wants, asks for wisdom, contributes greatly to building the temple of God, which a lot of people refer to Solomon's temple. He writes he writes a lot of very poignant things that we will read about later in the Bible, in Scripture. But again, does slip up a bit later on with, and has problems mostly stemming from the ladies. And it's not just one lady problem, it's a lot of lady problems, because he's got hundreds of wives and concubines. So um, there's a lot of kids, I'm sure. And vanity of vanities, all is vanity. I can't wait till we get there. What we're going to start seeing eventually is a lot of the narrative part of the Bible, of the Old Testament, break off into Psalms, Proverbs, and then we'll start getting into the prophecy side of things. But we still got a few um, we still got a few books left where we are telling the story. But tonight we're ending the kingdom of Israel and Judah, kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Because after Solomon, Israel breaks up into two, and what stays Israel ends up becoming a very non-godly place, a place that is very much given over to sin, given over to the worship of the world, and people doing what they want and worshiping who they want and behaving how they want. And it starts with the kings. The kings are terrible examples. The kings are given into doing very unholy things. And there you have it. Um, so Israel goes several generations, never really redeems itself at all, and is eventually exiled, conquered and exiled. Um, Judah has basically a roller coaster effect. They go from good ruler to bad ruler to good ruler to bad ruler to an okay ruler to an okay ruler, bad ruler. It's all over the place. And then finally we get a really bad ruler who we learn in Chronicles at the end realizes his mistake, turns things around. His son goes back to the wickedness, and then his son Josiah is the one who realized how bad things have really got. He's really the one, right? He's listening to his priest read the book of Moses to him, and he's the meme. If only you knew how bad things really were. And so he goes, "We've got to fix this stuff," and he does his best to do so. Um, and in doing so, God's giving him peace in his time, kind of. He's not going to bring about the destruction while he lives. What do you think? Are you going to start making noise? Shh. So there you go. All right. So let's get this on. Let's get this puppy rolling so I can start telling. Let's tell this baby a story. Let's tell her about let's give her some of the word. You're never too young to hear the word. Emmanuel, welcome to the chat. Now that's adorable. Look, the child. I'm glad I'm back. There you go. I'm glad you're back too. Derniath, I like chapter 12. So then what's the conclusion of the matter? Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Yeah, I can't wait till we get there. All right. So we're still in the rule of Josiah. 2 Chronicles chapter 35, celebration of the Passover. Josiah kept a Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the first month. 14th day of the first month. He appointed the priests to their offices and encouraged them in the service of the house of the Lord. And he said to the Levites who taught all Israel and who were holy to the Lord, put the holy ark of the covenant in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, built. You need no longer carry it upon your shoulders. Now serve the Lord your God and his people Israel. Prepare yourselves according to your fathers' houses by your divisions, following the directions of King David of Israel and the direction of Solomon his son, and stand in the holy place according to the groupings of the fathers' houses of your brethren, the lay people. And let there be for each a part of a father's house of the Levites, and kill the Passover lamb, and sanctify yourselves, and prepare for your brethren to do according to the word by the Lord Moses. This isn't bad. This translation's not bad. Then Josiah contributed to the lay people as Passover offerings for all that were present, lambs and kids from the flock. That's kids. That's goat kids, I'm assuming. From the flock to the number of 30,000 and 3,000 bulls. These were from the king's possessions. And his princes contributed willingly to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. Hilkiah, Zechariah, why are they putting random apostrophes in here? Hilkiah, Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Jehiel, the chief officers of the house of God, gave to the priests for the Passover offerings 2,600 lambs and kids and 300 bulls. Conaniah also, and Shemaiah, and Nathaniel, his brothers, and Hashabiah, and Jael, and Jozabad, the chiefs of the Levites, gave to the Levites for the Passover offerings 5,000 lambs and kids and 500 bulls. Okay, so what we're seeing here is Josiah, look, he's trying to make sure things are going smoothly. We need to get Josiah's big deal. Big plan, his project, his goal is to get things back the way God wanted them to be, as described in the book of Moses, right? The laws of Moses. This is where he wants to get us to, because he knows that it's been a long time since they actually did things the way they were supposed to be. And that means not just behaving yourself, but also going through the rituals that God described that they needed to do. And so that's what they're doing. When the service had been prepared for, the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their divisions according to the king's command. And they killed the Passover lamb, and the priests sprinkled the blood which they received from them, while the Levites flayed the victims. That's a very, that makes it sound like it's people. This translation's making it sound, they flayed the victims. And they set aside the burnt offerings that they might distribute them according to the groupings of the fathers' houses of the lay people, to offer it to the Lord, as it is written in the book of Moses. And so they did with the bulls. And they roasted the Passover lamb with fire, according to the ordinance. And they boiled the holy offerings in pots, in cauldrons, and in pans, and carried them quickly to all the lay people because the pots were hot and they didn't want to hold them too long. It's just like if you warm up something in your spaghetti in a bowl in the microwave, and you're going to get it from point A to point B. You don't hold on to it long. You got to carry it quickly. I don't know if that's the case here. And afterward, they prepared for themselves and for the priests, because the priests and the sons of Aaron were busied in offering the burnt offerings and the fat parts until night. So the Levites prepared for themselves and for the priests, the sons of Aaron. The singers, the sons of Asaph, were in their place according to the command of David. And Asaph and Heman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer, and the gatekeepers were at each gate. They did not need to depart from their service, for their brethren, the Levites, prepared for them. So what do we see here, right? It's really describing just what they're doing, but I think this is an interesting thing to take away from here, and I think it's something that a lot of preachers and pastors and folks in the clergy, I'm not going to say all of them. I'm not going to say most of them, but the ones that you hear about and the ones that you see a lot of, the easy ones are the Kenneth Copelands and Joel Osteens. But there are priests, there are preachers and pastors everywhere, especially in non-denominational groups. Look, that's my own folks, right? It's especially in the circles that non-denominationals travel in. You have big time, very wealthy pastors, and some of them seemingly are very self-serving. Whereas kind of what you see with the more organized religions, or I'm sorry, not religions, the more organized denominations, I'll name Catholicism and the Orthodoxy, where there's much more the expectation of what a priest is supposed to be, and putting the people first before them seems to be a more recognized role, and there seems to be part of an understanding that that role is in there. And I think that's because you've got that extra layer of authority set there to make sure that, look, this is a very structured understanding of what your place is to be, and to make sure that your heart kind of stays in that spot. And what I'm going with this is putting the people first, sacrificing any of your own pleasure or wealth or time or whatever. Everything is focused on serving the people and instructing the people and making sure they're provided for, because you're such a representative of the faith, because that's your whole entire identity to everyone is wrapped up in your faith, because it's not just your chosen um free will moment here, your chosen faith, your chosen religion. It's your profession. It's a profession that you have chosen to go into, been very deliberate and intentional about being and existing in. That's how people recognize you. You are the pastor, you are the preacher, you are the priest. And that's what we're seeing them do here. God, not just going through their duties, but also making sure that they're putting the lay people first. And not just that, making sure that they're also taking care of the folks who aren't around, who may be forgotten because they're working in other locations, like the gatekeepers. Everybody's being looked out for. And who's looking out for them? The priests, the preachers, the pastors, the reverends, whatever. In this case, it's the priests and the Levites. This is something that many folks miss, it seems, in professions, or in the pastoral profession, with the more loosely organized Protestant denominations. Like I said, non-denominationals, we fall into this trap. It's seemingly more than others, and maybe the Baptists. So all the service of the Lord was prepared that day to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord, according to the command of King Josiah. And the people of Israel who were present kept the Passover at that time and the feast of unleavened bread 7 days. Oh, yeah. Did y'all hear this? Did y'all hear her grunting? And the people of Israel who were present kept the Passover at that time and the feast of unleavened bread 7 days. No Passover like it had been kept in Israel since the days of Samuel the prophet. This is important. No Passover like it. This is how important, this is how strict Josiah was being in the observance and the practice of this feast. No Passover like it had been kept in Israel since the days of Samuel the prophet, since the inception of the kingdom, the monarchies in Israel. None of the kings of Israel had kept such a Passover as was kept by Josiah, and the priests and the Levites and all Judah and Israel who were present, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah, this Passover was kept. Defeat by Pharaoh Necho. We'll call it Necho since Nico's a viewer here. Defeat by Pharaoh Necho and death of Josiah. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, went up to fight at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent envoys to him, saying, "What have we to do with each other, king of Judah? I am not coming against you this day, but against the house with which I am at war, and God has commanded me to make haste. Cease opposing God, who is with me, lest he destroy you." Huh. There's got to be more to this story. There's got to be more to this altercation than just coming out, because we're seeing here where Josiah's doing what he's supposed to do. Why would God send the Egyptians? Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn away from him, but disguised himself in order to fight with him. He did not listen to the words of Necho from the mouth of God, but joined battle in the plain of Megiddo. There you go. Hold on one second. Oh, you're home already? Oh. Okay. You want? Not really. She's been. She's had her bath and everything. Anyway, all right. Sorry about that, guys. Passing the baby off. All right. So, where was I at? All right. So Josiah is given a message from Necho, and I guess either he doesn't want to listen to it or he thinks that it's not legitimate. But I think we're getting ready to find out it's very legitimate. But Necho comes out and says, "Look, I'm here to do battle with you if you don't stop doing some things that God doesn't like you to do. Cease opposing God who is with me, lest he destroy you." I don't know. I guess we have to understand really what's going on more here, and it would be great, Nath, if you've got some insights in here, or maybe Yex. He goes up to fight at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. Does that mean Josiah was being defensive or was being offensive? Because it sounds like the Egyptians are out just doing their thing. The Judeans come up, and the Egyptian sends out a messenger going, "Hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You need to just stop because God's instructed me to do what I'm doing. I've got no idea, honestly. This would be an interesting thing to kind of an interesting sidebar when if somebody's got some insights into this at some point. But whatever we can tell, whatever happens, it's not going to end well for Josiah because look, it says the death of Josiah, right? He did not listen, and it says it here. He did not listen to the words of Necho from the mouth of God, but joined battle in the plain of Megiddo. And the archers shot King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, "Take me away, for I am badly wounded." I'm shot, guys. Somebody give me a medic. Um, maybe he's maybe they're out there doing some battle with what's left of the Israelites out in the Israeli kingdom. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like this is just a very interesting place that we're at, that it came right after Josiah's doing such a good job, and then all of a sudden here come the Egyptians. All right, so they shot King Josiah. He said to his servants, "Take me away, for I'm badly wounded." So his servants took him out of the chariot and carried him in his second chariot, because the king's got to have a backup chariot, and brought him to Jerusalem. And he died, unceremoniously, it seems, and was buried in the tombs of his fathers. All Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. Jeremiah also uttered a lament for Josiah, and all the singing men and singing women have spoken of Josiah in their laments to this day. They made these an ordinance in Israel. Behold, they are written in the laments. I wonder if they're referring to Lamentations. Now, the rest of the acts of Josiah and his good deeds, according to what is written in the law of the Lord, and his acts first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. All right, so before we go back and finish the last chapter, let's go back to Second Kings, and maybe there's something we missed there that I'm forgetting. Emmanuel, I used to be an adventurer, but then I got shot in the knee. Yes, yeah. I'd go out there and fight. I just got this old football injury, right? Josiah does. No. No, it doesn't seem like it gets anything here. It says, "Still the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath." By this time, God had already made his mind up. He's getting Judah's doomed. He's just not going to do it while Josiah is in charge. And then it goes to, in his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria over to the river Euphrates. Okay, there we go. There's our answer. So for some reason, Josiah is sticking his nose into some conflict that he's not involved in. And Necho basically warns him to go away. And again, for some reason, he doesn't. And so he gets shot and he dies. As what happens sometimes when you don't do what God tells you to do. Sometimes his actions against you, especially in the Bible, are more overt than not. All right, the reign of Jehoahaz, last chapter, chapter 36. The people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's stead in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign. It's an interest. That's also a song by Jimmy Eat World. And he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. Oh, okay. Then the king of Egypt, Mr. Necho, as we've come to know him, deposed him in Jerusalem and laid upon the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Jehoahaz, his brother, and carried him to Egypt. Okay, so the Egyptians come in, basically put them under um, their protectorate and start taxing them heavily, demanding tribute. And we've got a puppet state set up. As God basically said, as soon as Josiah dies, Judah's in for it. The reign and captivity of Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. We're going to put reigned in quotation marks because he's basically doing whatever the Egyptians want him to. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Remember this, guys. And bound him in fetters to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried parts of the vessels of the house of the Lord to Babylon and put them in his palace in Babylon. Now, the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and the abominations which he did, and what was found against him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his stead. Well, he did evil. We don't need to go back and find all the evil things because we know that usually it involves, child sacrifice, worshiping demons and gods, other false gods, and just not good stuff. Jehoiachin was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, just 10 days better than his uncle. He did what was evil in the sight of. How does an 8-year-old do what was evil? Never mind. I've had an 8-year-old. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. In the spring of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the precious vessels of the house of the Lord, and made his brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. His older brother. So what we're seeing here a couple times, Jehoiachin is younger, eight, 8 years old. That's right, Yex. Jehoiachin is younger than Zedekiah. But not only that, Jehoahaz is younger than Jehoiakim because he's 23 years old, only reigns 3 months. Jehoiakim comes in, he's 25 years old. It's very interesting. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. He did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who we'll read about later, who spoke from the mouth of the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God. He stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord, the God of Israel. Does this sound like your typical 21-year-old? All the leading priests and the people likewise were exceedingly unfaithful, following all the abominations of the nations, and they polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. This is an interesting, since we're basically a few verses away from the end of the kingdom of Judah, which is part of the promised land, part of the covenant that God made with the Israelites. What we see here by basically looks like the last king. He stiffened his neck and hardened his heart. What does God complain about throughout the Exodus? And it's not just God. I think it's Moses as well. You are a stiff-necked and stubborn people. We hear it all throughout the Pentateuch, starting with the Exodus. Stiff-necked and stubborn people cannot stand that. And what do we see here? This is how it's described. He stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord, the God of Israel. And when the leader acts that way, so does everybody else behind him. All the leading priests, all the people, exceedingly unfaithful, following all the abominations of the nations, and they polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. basically Solomon's temple. Or maybe they're talking about the different houses of the tribes of Israel. Maybe all of it. The fall of Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their fathers, sent persistently to them by his messengers, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they kept mocking the messengers of God, despising his words, and scoffing at his prophets, till the wrath of the Lord rose against his people, till there was no remedy. I can only take so much, and I can't take no more. Therefore, he brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion on young man or virgin, old man or aged. He gave them all into his hand, and all and all the vessels of the house of God, great and small, and the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And they burned the house of God, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious vessels. He took into exile in Babylon those who had escaped from the sword, and they became servants to him and to his sons until the establishment of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths. All the days that it lay desolate, it kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Sounds like we're going to be reading more about that later on. And the last few verses here. Cyrus proclaims liberty for the exiles. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all his people, may the Lord his God be with him. Let him go up. And that is the end of the Chronicles of the Kings. And we're closing this era of the Old Testament. So we had Genesis, right? Which is basically the beginnings. Genesis is very much standalone. It's giving you a build-up of the history of the people and an introduction to Abraham, giving you his story, the original covenant that we are basically seeing going up in flames in a way at this point. We are introduced to his son Isaac, then Jacob, and then Joseph, one of my favorites. Joseph is one of my favorites. Genesis ends with Joseph, and then the people. I can't remember if it's the end of Genesis or the beginning of Exodus, but the Hebrews being and the Israelites being enslaved by the Egyptians. So then we get to Moses and the Exodus. So Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And we end Deuteronomy. They go through the whole captivity in Egypt, the leading out of the salvation from Egypt, going into the wilderness to be led to the promised land, the unfaithfulness and ingratitude shown there from Mount Sinai, all the actions on Mount Sinai, to being scared of the Canaanites, and boom, cast into the wilderness for 40 years. So that wraps up with Deuteronomy, where they finally reach the promised land. Moses is not allowed to enter the promised land, but he gives this grand speech basically setting up and warning the Israelites who are going into the promised land what they need to make sure they do to keep their end of the covenant that was made with God. So then we get Joshua and Judges, the beginnings of things. Ruth, let's put Ruth in there. Joshua, Judges, and Ruth, the beginnings of Israel and the kingdom and how it's being run. And we see Joshua, it's a very good time for Israel, but then in Judges and Ruth, we see things starting to fluctuate, fall apart. The Israelites acting like Israelites usually do. One moment, very righteous. One moment, just blatantly evil. That leads into the kingdoms, which we see in 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. And so now we have entered the time period where the kings are starting to rule, human kings. Human kings are ruling everything. It doesn't take very long for things to go to hell in a handbasket. And now we are going to enter the exile. And so that'll be left up with Ezra and Nehemiah. This is a very interesting couple of books. I said Esther, I mean Ezra. If I said Ezra, I'm good. We're going to be talking about captivity. Daniel and Job is going to be in here. There's going to be a lot, and these books are coming up as well. There's going to be a lot of very interesting stuff that we're going to be discussing in the next coming in the coming weeks. So I'm very excited about it. Try to get some more guests lined up for things. Like I said, conversations with the Calvinist. I want to bring him on. He's hilarious. I think he's going to be a great guest to show. I think you should all check out his YouTube channel. It's a very, I don't know, it's very culturally similar to me. Where he seems like a very small time pastor who explains Protestant denominations in a very funny way, in a very self-deprecating way, and I like it. So check out his channel if you haven't. I don't think it matters what denomination you are. I think you're going to enjoy kind of what he has to say. He digs into a lot of the stereotypes, and I'd like to see him succeed. So we'll bring him on. We'll bring Paul on to talk some more. And I've got another guy, like I said, another local guy I'd like to bring on. A couple local guys actually that I'd like to bring on to talk about their stories. All right, y'all. That's going to end things tonight. And I'm looking forward to next week, starting with Ezra. And hopefully next week. Whoa, wait. Next week we're only going to get probably a couple of episodes in. Tuesday and Wednesday should be fine. Should be fine to stream those days. So we'll get 4th of July is Tuesday. Apparently America's birthday is Tuesday, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll have a patriotic stream. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. Oh, yeah. Okay. I got plans. If you don't know, my wife's behind the camera right now managing my schedule because I don't always know exactly what I'm doing all the time. All right, guys. In the meantime, hopefully we'll have a chill stream tomorrow night at some point, and if we do, we'll do open topic, or maybe we'll do a real good review over these last 6 Bible books, and because I think there's a lot of meat to review there, not just what I've talking about. So to everybody, because I didn't do this last time, from Emmanuel, Yex, Alias, Matt Felty, Nernath, I think I said Alias. Yeah, I did say Alias. I didn't see Dresden come in. Been a small group tonight, but thank you guys for coming. Thank you all guys for what y'all contributed tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in and bearing with me, as it's been a very, very inconsistent couple of months for me streaming, and hopefully as the summer wears on, that will even out, and so we can get some more get some more consistency out there, and I can be streaming most nights as opposed to, hey, it's Thursday and I haven't streamed all week. So but thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for contributing in the chat. Watching this, thank you for giving me your attention. I'm glad that you tune in. And like Yex is saying, helping the algorithm, helping the channel. If you want to support the stream, I'm not interested in getting any money out of this. What I would like to get is exposure. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you like the stream, click the like button, give me a thumbs up, and share this stream, share this channel with anybody you think would enjoy this. Best advertising is word of mouth. If you guys can bring that out there and we can grow this community, I'd be very thankful for that. And for everybody catching this on the replay, hope to catch you live soon. And with that said, all of you guys have a very good night, and God bless.